boys and girls, children of all ages. This is At the Helm Sports. I'm your host, Derek Helm. Thank you for joining me for episode 171. Please be sure to follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave those 5-star reviews if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. In the comments section, very simple this week. Let me know. Did you go through the heartbreak of back in Potgeiter? You don't even have to comment. You could just leave a crying emoji, a throw up emoji, maybe just a picture of a tree. Yeah. Anyways, we'll dive into the Cognizant in a little bit here. Quickly, we can recap the Mexico Open. Obviously, the world was on Potgetter and it was up and down. Looked like he was going to be able to pull it out, then looked like he was going to fall apart, then looked like he was going to pull it out, then looked like he was going to fall apart. Go to the playoff, and then obviously that is just an absolutely brutal finish there. It's good for Campbell. I mean, it would be a great story, is a great story, but I mean, obviously, if you're watching this podcast, you care about the betting aspect of it, and nobody gives a shit about the story. That was just a brutal loss overall. Now, Campbell himself, he did play, you know, it didn't seem that the course would suit him, but he played it perfectly. The par fives, he knew he wasn't going to be able to get there, and he was just putting it to a spot where he was comfortable to hit his wedges and make makeable putts, and he ended up basically making less mistakes than Potgetter did, and you could just see in his young career, Potgetter is just not ready for it. We saw it at Torrey, which was a little bit bigger of a moment, and even here, it just lost confidence. You could see it just looked a little dejected early in his round. Then he would get a little confidence back, but then it would just lose it again. And I do think that as he gets further in his career, I think that will come along a little bit more. Now, obviously, the guy has a ton of power, but you need a little bit more than that because there was just as brutal as the loss was with Campbell getting lucky off the tree. I mean, Potgetter did not put himself in a place to succeed. He just continually kept missing greens, and when you don't have a strong short game, eventually it's going to bite you in the ass, and that's basically what we saw. There was just a couple chips there that were pretty much horrific, and it cost him in the end. And then obviously, he was sun running with the putter in round two, and it cooled off a little bit on Sunday. And even with that miracle, he still had a chance to force a third hole in the playoff and missed a short putt. So it was a makeable putt. It just he lost it. You can blame the luck as much as you want, and yeah, obviously Campbell should have lost, but he played his game. He made less mistakes, and Potgetter didn't capitalize. So it's unfortunate. It's brutal. I mean, let's be honest, but we move on. Quickly, though, I was so caught up with the Potgetter, I totally forgot about the fact that also had Smalley for an each way, and he decided to bogey and double bogey two of his last three holes, so that was not helpful either. But either way, we had a profitable week, so that's all that matters. But moving on to the Cognizant this week, obviously Cognizant Classic, but it's the Honda. Let's be serious. We get to play at PGA National, and usually a fun time. Obviously, last year they changed it up a little bit. I mean, Jack Nicklaus designed PGA National Champions Course usually plays absolutely brutal. It's generally one of the most difficult courses on tour. Last year played a little bit easier. They had a little bit easier of a setup. There wasn't really a lot of wins, so going to be interesting to see what they do this year and how they set it up. Would like to see it be a little bit more difficult, but I mean, if we're going to see this, play as kind of middle of the road, maybe we look at a little bit different skill set, but I do think that we can there's tons and tons of water around here, so going for bogey avoidance, getting guys that are accurate and maybe avoiding the blow up holes is definitely going to matter regardless of what the setup is. But the champion course is 7,160 yard par 71 with Bermuda greens. Used to be a par 70, but they changed one of the holes from a very long par 4 to a short par 5, so obviously we get the extra stroke and makes it a little bit easier. And obviously if you can capitalize on the par 5s here, goes a long way. As I said, last year wasn't very windy. We have seen the winds pick up here, and basically this place is just absolute carnage. So definitely want to keep an eye on that. If there's going to be some wind or some splits that we might want to pay attention to. Obviously, recording this on a Monday, a little bit early to look into that too much, but there is water on 15 holes. So as I said, you definitely want guys that can be accurate and not absolutely blow up here. 11 par 4s, 4 par 3s, 3 par 5s. As I said, we definitely want guys that can score on the par 5s here, because if you can capitalize there, I mean, you're probably going to be contending on Sunday. Holes 5 to 7 are incredibly difficult, one of the toughest 3-hole stretches on tour, and the funny part is that's not even the hardest holes on this course. We obviously have the bear trap. 15, 16, and 17 often play as one of the most difficult 3-hole stretches on tour. It's gonna be brutal. I mean, that stretch we've seen many times make or break a round, so you definitely want guys that can get through that, not necessarily unscathed, but without giving up too much ground. Now, off the tee, you definitely want to avoid trouble. As I said, tons of water here. There's tons of bunkers. So we see a lot of holes where there's maybe water up the whole right side and bunkers up the whole left side. So you definitely want accuracy over distance here. And as a result, we see the average drive lower than tour average, 276 yards. Fairways, not exactly easy to hit, but pretty close to tour average at 60%. Now, last year, they made the fairways a little bit wider. They were a little bit easier to hit. We saw 64%. So if that's the case this year, maybe we could see guys capitalizing on that again. Approaches matter a ton. They matter at every course, but especially here with all the trouble. I mean, if you're missing greens here, it's not just that you're going to have a good around the green game, because I mean, you could be going right into a bunker, or the water could be just a couple feet off of the green here. So just missing a green, you could go into the water. So definitely want guys that are accurate, not just off the tee, but with their irons as well. And probably the mid to long irons, because 25% come from 175 to 200 yards, another 23% from 150 to 175. So definitely want guys that are dialed in from those ranges. Greens in regulation just under 60%. So not exactly easy to hit greens here, but you definitely want some guys that are accurate. And as I said, some around the green game will definitely come in. Some scrambling will come in, some sand saves. But if you're missing too many greens, it could spell disaster for you and you could fall apart quickly here. So definitely want guys that can avoid the big numbers, that are accurate off the tee and accurate with their mid to long irons. There's 144 golfers in the field. Top 65 and ties will make the cut on the weekend. Last year we had Austin Eckroat, won by 3 strokes, minus 17, one of the lower scores that we've seen at this course, as I've basically beaten it into the ground at this point. The year prior was not exactly easy, but Kirk won in a playoff over Cole at 14 under, so was able to make some birdies there as well. But the previous year to that, we saw Sepp Straka minus 10. So that's kind of what we've seen here historically, is around that 10 number, maybe a little bit better, maybe a little bit worse. The cut reflects it also. Last year was 1 under par, but previously +2, +3, +2, and then was +4 before that. If we dive into the field, it's a okay field. I mean, we do have some weaker guys here, but up top we have some names, and obviously seeing Russell Henley as the most expensive golfer on DraftKings is pretty interesting. 10,700. The guy has a great track record here. Just in the last 5 years, he has a third place and eighth place finish back in 2021 and 2020. He's playing good golf. As we said, we want guys that are accurate here. So I do think that you can make a case for him being the most expensive. I mean, he actually won here back in 2014 as well. Last year was okay. He came 41st, so not really anything to write home about. But as I said, the previous two good finishes in 2021 and 2020, he's only missed the cut once in 10 appearances at PGA National, and Bermuda is his best surface. So there's definitely things to like with Henley. He came 39th at the Genesis, but wouldn't really expect him to be too great there. Not really a course that overly suits his game. Previously was fifth at Pebble, 10th at Sony, so been playing good golf and has a good course history. So understandable why he's the most expensive there. I will have him in quite a bit of my lineups. I would expect him to be pretty popular, 10-7, not incredibly expensive where people won't be able to fit him. And I do see some people betting him as well. So I do think he's going to be popular. Shane Lowry at 10-5, I do think that he actually makes a ton of sense here as well. Obviously, another guy that has had success here. He hasn't been able to pull it out and win, but last three appearances, fourth, fifth, and second. So it seems to be a place where he is comfortable and can play well. And, he's played impressively with the irons here 6.3, 5.1, and 6.8 strokes on approach in those three appearances. So definitely like that. He's never missed the cut here in 7 appearances. It's been a mixed bag to start 2025. I mean, he missed the cut at the Farmers, came second at Pebble, and 39th at the Waste Management, but dating back to last year, he's gained strokes on approach in 8 of 10 tournaments. So he's got the irons dialed in. It's a course that fits him. Considering possibly making an outright on him, I keep going back and forth. Probably going to end up betting one of either him or Straka, but I do like Lowry quite a bit here. Daniel Berger, 9,900. Now, a guy that kind of interesting having him up here price wise. He's had success here. I mean, 2 of his last 3 times he finished 4th place, so it's a place that he does like, and he's been playing better here recently. I mean, obviously with the injury concerns last year, was making his way back, didn't look good, but came second at the Waste Management, 12th at the Genesis, so you definitely like that for him. I do like him quite a bit here, and I think his game actually fits it. I made the outright on him at 28-1. I see that he is getting pretty popular from an outright standpoint. I do expect him to be pretty popular from a DraftKings standpoint too, especially considering how many people are betting him. So if he does get popular here, I'm willing to go to these other guys and just ride with the outright, because if he gets in any ownership, I do think that there's some volatility there that maybe fading him in DraftKings makes sense, but I do think that the ceiling is high enough that it's worth the shot at the outright at just under 30-1. Sungjae Im, 9,800. Haven't really decided what I'm going to do with him. Probably want to see what the ownership's going to come in at. Obviously, this is a place where he has won. It's a place that he's played well, not necessarily recently, and then recently on tour, he just hasn't really looked good. I mean, he's had some flashes this year, but at 9,800, probably going to be between him and Pendrith for me in my player pool. Whether I'm going to go to one of those two guys, probably end up going to the lower owned of the two. I do like Sepp Straka quite a bit. As I said, if I don't make a bet on Lowry, it's probably going to be Straka. 9,400 for him, I do think is a good price. This is another guy, obviously missed the cut last year, but previously came 5th and won the year before that. So he's won at PGA National. He's come top 5. He's playing good golf so far this year, so I do like him quite a bit. I mean, he missed the cut at the Genesis, but that's fine. I think, obviously a difficult course. It's understandable if you can miss the cut there. But previously came 15th at the Waste Management. He gained 5.7 strokes on approach there. Came 7th at Pebble. Gained 10 strokes tee to green there, and obviously he won the Amex. So playing good golf here this year. I do like him quite a bit, and as I said, considering the outright, he's 7th on strokes gained approach over the last 24 rounds. He's 3rd from that 175 to 200 range, and 4th in par 5 scoring. So I like Seps quite a bit here. Probably not going to be too much dabbling in the lower 9K and upper 8K range. I think you could make a case for some of these guys, but probably going to go down a little bit further and focus more on four guys up here up top. I'm willing to go to Spieth, but I want to see what his ownership's at. 8,600 though, I think is a good price for him. Hasn't really played here before, but I do think it's a place that could suit him. Obviously, played well at the Waste Management. Otherwise, it's been kind of spotty, but I do think he's healthy. The fact that he was able to, you know, come out here and play a couple tournaments already this year and put in a top 5 performance at the Waste Management, I definitely think that there's some confidence there. It's interesting that he's at 50-1 for an outright. I could see maybe taking a chance on that. I don't think I would get there, but I do think it's worth a DraftKings play if he's not ridiculously popular. Ben Griffin, I have a little bit of interest in, but probably going to go to Michael Kim, 8,400. Just hasn't really played well here, but it's a case of course history versus recent form because the form is incredible. I mean, he's second in my model over the last 24 rounds, third in bogey avoidance. Obviously, that is something that you're going to have at PGA National. He's ninth in scrambling, 11th from 150 to 175. He's fifth in par 4 scoring, 16th around the green. He is 30th in strokes gained approach. So, like where Michael Kim is at, he's had some good performances here over the last couple weeks. Willing to go there at what I think is a pretty good price at 8,400. Austin Eckroat obviously won here last year, but I don't know if I'm necessarily going to go back to him here. But I do like Novak quite a bit. 8,000 for him, I think, is a good price. I have made an outright on him as well at 45-1 with the top 6 each way. Finished ninth last year at the Cognizant. He gained strokes in all strokes gained metrics, so nice, well-rounded appearance there last year. 2025 has been interesting for him. He's missed 3 cuts, but also had a third place at the Farmers, 13th at Pebble and Genesis. So some good finishes, some missed cuts. So don't really know who's going to show up, but I do think that the fact that he played here well and has been playing well here recently, I think you could definitely make a case to go there. And then over the last 50 rounds, he's first in bogey avoidance, second from 150 to 175, and 13th on approach. So he has a lot of what you like for this course. Already has a top 10 here. So I took the outright on him, and I do like him as a DraftKings play. Billy Horschel, 7,900, another guy considering an outright on. I just think that this is a place that definitely suits him. We've seen him playing some good golf here this year. Bermuda is his best putting surface, so do like him quite a bit at under 8K on DraftKings and maybe making the outright on him. Alex Smalley, despite absolutely destroying that each way chance last week, maybe go to him at 7,900. Just another guy. He's playing very good golf. I mean, hopefully he doesn't miss too many short putts here and he could be all right, but he's good with the bogey avoidance. Pretty good out of the sand as well. Third in scrambling, second in par 4 scoring. He's just been playing really good golf here. So I'm willing to ride the recent form with him and hope that he can potentially pull something out here. I don't know if I want to play Lucas Glover. He's been a little bit up and down here. I do think that it's a place that fits him. Obviously, if you want accurate golfers that are good with the irons, he definitely makes a lot of sense. But I kind of want to go with the upside of a Luke Clanton right under him at 7,700. I definitely think that he makes a ton of sense, and obviously playing for his tour card. So I'm definitely going to play some Clanton. I think I'm going to play Brian Harman 7,700. He has some mixed results here. Hasn't really played well, but been playing pretty good golf recently. Another guy that is great with avoiding bogeys, good out of the sand. He's gonna live in the fairway, so definitely think that it could pan out pretty well for him at 7,700. And I don't think he's going to be too popular, so I do like him there. Taylor Moore, another guy, 7,600. I'm willing to go with the recent form there. I think he is solid. Maybe I might, because I do like a lot of guys in this 7K range, but I think I'm probably going to go between either him or Lee Hodges. Probably not going to play both of them, but going to have to make a decision between one of those two guys because I'm playing Nikolai Højgaard. I do like him quite a bit, like where his game's at. Love the fact that he can be dialed in with the irons. Not really a strong around the green game, but as we said, if you're missing too many greens here, could be in trouble, but he's going to avoid bogeys. He's good with the irons, so I do like him quite a bit. Harry Hall, 7,400. Past couple times out, not really looking as good as he did early in the year, but I do think that with his putting ability, he's good at scrambling. The putter might be able to bail him out a little bit on some of these holes. So 7,400, I think he's in consideration. Seamus Power rates out well statistically here, 11th in strokes gained approach. He's in top 25 around the green. He's 6th in bogey avoidance, 11th from that 175 to 200 yard range. So I do like Seamus Power quite a bit. Hasn't really performed well here, but hasn't really played much here recently. I think he's a pretty good golfer, and you can make a case there. Chris Kirk hasn't looked good this year. 7,300 for him, though. I think in some larger field stuff, I'm going to take some stabs at just a guy that's played here well before, obviously won. I think he also had another top 10. So I think might sprinkle some Kirk in there. And then Eric Cole as well. It's the guy that you're going to get some volatility from round to round, but it's another place where he's performed well. He's not great the last two times out, missing the cut, but 22nd at Pebble Beach, and obviously came fifth earlier this year at the Sony. So I think that in this field down at 7,200, you can make a case to go to him. Kevin Roy, and another guy that's playing pretty good golf. So 7,200, I'm willing to go there. I like Sam Ryder quite a bit here. I actually don't know how popular he gets, but at 7,100, I think he makes sense. Another guy that's played well at PGA National over the last 5 years. He's made the cut 4 times and finished in the top 10 twice. Bermuda is by far his best putting surface, so do like that. I mean, he hasn't really contended in 2025, but he's made the cut in all 4 appearances. So like that, he's gained strokes on approach in all 4 appearances as well. And over the last 24 rounds, he's pretty good with the sand saves and 15th in bogey avoidance. I like where his game is at. It's a guy that's played well here before. 7,100, I think, is a pretty good price for him. And then I don't love anyone. There's not really anybody that stands out too much for me in the 6K range. Gonna have to dig in a little bit more to see. Probably gonna go to Mark Hubbard. Just I think the names that are around him, he's a little bit better of a golfer. So maybe can make a case there. But he really has not been good this year, other than a 12th at the Amex and 21st at Sony. But 2 miscuts, but down at this price, might actually get there. But that's pretty much what we're looking at for this week. So far, the only bets I've made are Berger at 28 to 1 and Novak at 45 to 1. As I said, I am considering either a Lowry or a Straka, and maybe potentially a Horschel, and probably have room for one more. But check the My Bets tab, thehelmsports.com. I will have everything up there by Wednesday night. Or if you are in the Mad Lab MMA Discord, I put all my bets in there the second I make them, so you can get the same number. But that's going to do it for this week. Do love this tournament. It's always nice to start the Florida swing. Obviously, we're getting into springtime. We're getting into the Florida swing, which means major season is right around the corner. Have the players coming up. So it's an exciting time of year. But that's going to do it for me. As always, thank you for listening. I'm your host, Derek Helm. And remember,
Just have fun out there.